Hello everyone. Today I will be sharing my November wrap-up and my reading plans for December. Please excuse if you hear some background noise. But I finished 4 things in November and I DNF'd 1, so I'm going to talk about that first. And then the things that I did finish in chronological order. Then I'll go over what I'm currently reading, just 5 things, which is way too much. And then I will go my reading plans for December. So I can't hold up a lot of things because most of it came from the library and I returned it already. So sorry for that, but the books that I mentioned will be listed in the description below. So my 1 DNF was The Wolf by Leo Carew, which is the first book in the Under the Northern Sky series. It's about a war between kind of godlike people from the north and then people from the south. This was, I picked this up because Leanna's Library was hosting a read-along for this series, but I really couldn't get into it. I didn't get attached to the characters. I just didn't care about the story in general, and so because of that I decided to DNF because I was already on the fence about it anyway, and without this read-along I probably would have picked it up in the first place, so it wasn't a huge disappointment or anything. Then to the things that I did finish. The first book that I finished was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is a paranormal romance type thing. It's a first book in a series. It's about a woman. Where was I? It's about a witch called Diana, but she doesn't like being a witch, and she tries to stay away from everything magical as much as possible. But one day she's investigating some manuscripts in the Bodleian Library. She's a historian, and she stumbles across this manuscript that has been lost for over a century, and all the magical creatures want this manuscript. And so she tries to find out what it is, and for that she gets help from a very handsome vampire called Matthew, and then romance ensues. I'm normally not a big fan of vampire stories, and that's still not my favorite element of this book, but I did really enjoy this. There were some themes explored that I really liked. It was about like discovering who you are and unlocking your full potential. There also was a lot of trauma in it and a lot of grief. If those are themes you like. The atmosphere was amazing. The first part of the book was peak dark academia vibes, like not plot-wise, but just vibe-wise. And then we moved locations, and the vibes changed accordingly. So that was really good. I did have a few problems with the pacing. So around like the middle of the book was this really big thing happened, almost like a climax, and if I was reading this like on ebook or as an audiobook, I probably would think that that would kind of be the end of the book. There was still 200 pages or something, and so we didn't really get like a climax in this book. That was sort of the height of the thing, which made it a little weird. I mean, I understand why the book ends where it does, because you sort of get a natural divide in the events. I'm trying to be vague, I don't want to spoil things, but I understand why it ends there, but it's still, the pacing did feel a little bit weird. The romance itself was fine, I think. I don't have anything really to add there. It's an adult romance, but there weren't any steamy scenes. I mean, there were like a few kisses, but that's it, as far as I can remember. So I like that because I don't need a lot of steam in the books. I don't mind it, but it's not what I go looking for. I also liked that it wasn't, but with vampire stories, you often get this like teenage girl, and then this vampire was like 1,000 years old. I mean, you still have the huge age gap and the really old vampire, but at least this woman was in her 30s, I think. She already had a PhD. I don't know if they really gave you an age, but I always pictured her in her 30s. So that was like a little bit less. There were still some toxic things, but it could have been a lot worse. So yeah, I really liked this book. So if what I said sounds interesting, I highly recommend. Next up, I read The Wise Man's Fear, which is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles by Fredrik Rothfuss. I also really like this. It's very slow, which I love. It's very meandering, which I also love. The writing is beautiful. It's very character focused. I said this in my vlog as well, that I like how there are sort of different sections, like based on location. So we're doing something here, and then that's over, and then we move to a different location and we're doing something different, and then that's over, and then we go to the next thing, which kind of creates a feeling like you have like episodes, like in a TV show, which I really liked. I also love in Ademri, is that how you pronounce it? That like we truly get a different culture, because a lot of the time in like fantasy stories where you have a different culture, it's basically us and our way of thinking, just with a different packaging. So they speak a different language and they have a different religion and blah blah blah, but they're just us. It's only the packaging that's different. So I like that now, like some fundamental ideas about certain things were also being challenged in a way. So I liked that. There were some things that were unnecessary, and not a lot got resolved in this book, which doesn't make me very hopeful for book 3. But I'm still gonna read it because I really like the series. I just hope that he can resolve everything while also keeping like the slow and meandering nature of this thing. Fingers crossed. The third thing that I finished was a thriller of The Therapist by B.A. Paris. I don't read a lot of thrillers. It's not my genre. And I find it always weird, or not weird, but difficult to talk about, because I know it's not my genre, and so I don't have very high expectations. And then if I don't end up liking it a lot, then I don't love it, but it's also not a disappointment, because I don't go in expecting to love it, because I know that I don't like thrillers. I just want a good time, and this delivered. I didn't guess the twist, but whoever did it was among my list of suspects, but never number one. Wait, I haven't even told you what it's about. It's about this woman and she and her boyfriend move into a house, and then they find out that the previous owner of this house, who was a therapist, was murdered there. Also, the reaction of the woman when she finds out that this person was murdered was way over the top. And it was, I mean, I understand that, I don't know, it feels weird if suddenly you find out that someone is murdered in your house, but she was so mad at everyone for weeks. And so, I don't know, it was a lot. So I didn't love that. The main character was very naive, which is kind of a thing, like it's a thing in every thriller that I read, and she's very stupid. Again, a thing in every thriller that I read. So in my head, this kind of become a staple of the genre, even though I know that's not the case. I know that there are thrillers out there with very smart protagonists. I just haven't found them yet. So yeah, it was enjoyable, and that's all I want from a thriller, and it passed the time. So after that, I read a short story. It's in Dutch, and there's no English translation at this point. But the story is called De hond die naar het asiel moest, which translates as the dog that had to go to animal shelter. And it's about an old man who has died, but no one noticed that he was gone, and he was only found 2 weeks after he died, and he was alone in his house with his dog. And it's a story about loneliness, and about how even in small villages where everyone knows each other, people can still be lonely, and how just because you didn't actively kill someone, if you allow someone to die of loneliness, you also kill them in a certain way. And I thought it was really, really beautiful, and I really liked it. One thing, the dog that the whole story was named after is barely in the story. So like the title, I don't know how well chosen the title was, but that's kind of my only complaint. Also, it's a short story, and so I understand that things have to wrap up relatively quickly, but I thought that like certain things were extremely convenient, so I didn't love that, but I really enjoyed the story overall. So yeah, that was the wrap up. June was a very good month. I think like I gave Discovery of Witches 5 stars, then Wise Man's Fear 4.5, the short story 4, then The Therapist 3.5. So that's a really good month. Yeah, I hope I can keep that going in December. I'll show you what I'm currently reading. Well, I have 3 of them in physical copies, so I'll mention the other 2 first. For school, I have to read 3 Greek tragedies, one for each of the big tragedy writers. So I have Agamemnon for Aeschylos, Antigone for Sophocles, and Hippolyte for Euripides. I finished the first one, finished Agamemnon, but in my head they kind of all go together. So I see them as one. So even though I've finished one and haven't started the other two, it's kind of in my head, it's like this thing I'm doing. That's for school, so that's a bit different, but those will be, I'll continue those, and I'll talk to you those when I read all three, because I think it's most interesting to talk about them by comparing them to one another. The next thing is an ebook. It's a non-fiction. It's called No Escape: The True Story of China's Genocide of the Uyghurs by Nury Turkel. I know that this problem with the prosecution of Uyghurs is a thing in China, but I don't know as much about it as I probably should, so I decided to pick up a nonfiction about it. The author is Uyghur himself, was born in China but then escaped and now lives in the US, and he is an activist and a lawyer trying to help the Uyghurs. So I'm not very far into it, so I can't say a lot. So I have 3 books that I have physically with me, and I just had them next to one another, and I noticed that all 3 of them are like the second book in a series, and the title all starts with an S, so that brought me joy. So first up I have Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, which is the sequel to Skyward. I really liked Skyward when I read it. I really like the characters, especially Mbot. He's amazing. I liked the plot as well. It's a really fun series, sci-fi about a girl, Spencer, who lives on a planet that gets attacked regularly by these aliens, and so they have pilots who defend the planet, and Spencer want to become one of those pilots, but her father was a pilot as well, and he is a traitor, or everyone says he's a traitor, even though Spencer doesn't believe that he really was, because the father died already. And so, yeah, everyone is trying to hold Spencer back, but she doesn't want to give up on her dream. So, and this is book 2 to that series. So I'll continue reading this. I'm also reading Sapphire Blue by Kerstin Gier. This is a reread. This is like my comfort series. The Gemstone trilogy, I think it's called in English. It's like a time travel story with a very strong romantic component as well. It's YA. I really like it. It's so, I don't know, I read these when I was, 12, 13, and it's just nostalgia, and I really love them. So I'm reading that. And then I'm also reading Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, which are sci-fi fairy tale retellings, and this one is Red Riding Hood. We'll see how much I like it in comparison to the first one, which was Cinderella, because I never really liked the story of Red Riding Hood. But we'll see. how that goes. Then the reading plans. The first one kind of bleeds into this one because I would like to read the sequel to Scarlet, which is Cress. It's Rapunzel retelling in December, and I have 3 others that are kind of above the rest in likelihood of being read. One being The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healey, which is set during World War II, and so they brought the animals from the National Museum in London over to Lockwood Manor in case that the Germans attack London, and so they don't want to lose this collection. And our main character, her job is to guard this collection and live in this house and make sure nothing happens to it. And then it's a haunted house story. So I heard some good things, so I'm excited about that. I also have a story, I don't know if it's a novella or a full-length novel, but it's by a Dutch author called Susanne Vermeer, and it's called Midwinter. It's kind of a, not like she's like a chick litty thriller author. So it's one of those things, and she brings out 2 books every year, one in winter, one in summer, and then they're themed according to the season when they come out, and this is a winter book from some year. It's not from this year. But yeah, I wanted to give this author a go. So I said she's a Dutch author. I think she's a Belgian author, but she writes in Dutch, that's what I mean. And I looked, but I couldn't find an English translation of this, so I don't think it exists yet, or maybe it never will. But I also have another Christmas romancy type thing, which is One Day in December by Josie Silver. I don't know what this is about. I know it's romance. It has the word December in it. That's all I needed to know. I actually have some other things that I would like to get to, but I probably won't. I have one that's just general, that's not like seasonally themed, and that's Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I would love to get to this one before the end of the year. I never read something by Neil Gaiman before. We'll try. I know this is like sort of this more fairy tale type story. We'll see, and if it works out, it works out. If not, then not. The other ones that I have now are probably not getting read, but I like to list them anyway, because I like to pretend that I have some vague plans to read them. I have 3 of them that are not romances, so I'll start with them. The first one is The Deal of a Lifetime by Fredrik Backman, which is a novella about a man who knows he's going to die, and so there's this other patient in the hospital where he is who needs a donor for some organ, and they ask this man, would you like to donate, which will shorten your life a little bit, but you're gonna die anyway soon, and this person can really be helped by it. So will this man do it? Will he for once in his life not be selfish or not? And it's set around Christmas. So. Then I have The Girl Who Saved Christmas by Matt Haig, which is the second book in the series that started with A Boy Called Christmas, which I read last year, and I really loved it. I really like Matt Haig, so I want to read that. And then I have Christmas History by Judith Flanders, which is a non-fiction book about the origins of Christmas. I know some things about it. We'll see if I learn something new. And then I have a whole bunch of Christmas romances that I don't even know synopses for. I know that they're romances, I know that they're Christmas themed, which is everything I need to know. So some of these will be just standalone, some of these will be like those special novellas in a series, and I don't know if I'll read the series or not. We'll see. So I've got Christmas on the Island of Skye by Kirsty Ferry. I've got A Little Bit of Christmas Magic, also by Kirsty Ferry. I've got The 12 Dates of Christmas. I'm really interested in that one. It sounds very fun. It's like about this woman who like this dating bureau that guarantees that she'll get a date before Christmas, and she has to go on 12 dates to hopefully find a match. Then I also got a bundle last year by Kathy Kelly, which had, hang on, I don't know what this is today, but it sounds, which has 4 books in it. I probably won't read all of them. I don't even know if they're all Christmas themed, but I know that 2 of them are. And so this bundle contained The House on Willow Street, The Honey Queen, Christmas Magic, and The Perfect Holiday. So those last 2, they're obviously Christmassy. I won't read all 4 of them probably, but maybe 1, maybe. Also another Dutch novella that I have, which is Dit met Kerst, which is a kind of Christmas lockdown romance. I read one of those last year, and I love that one. It didn't have anything to do with the lockdown aspect. Just the rest of it wasn't very good. I hope this one is better if I end up reading it. Who knows? I mean, if I even get to like one of the Christmas romances, it's not like it's one of those first 4 that'll probably get read. Like high chances that it's not even one of these, that is just some random thing that I see floating by and pick up on a whim when I'm scrolling through the ebook app. Because that happens. So this was the video. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about and what you read in November. And so yeah, that's the video. So I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.